Yeah.
Is it filming?
Yep.
Okay, hi folks, this is Mo calling. I'm just going to do a quick demonstration on the Lumix TZ48 for your product demonstration. This is a recap on what we should be discussing for your demonstration. This is the Lumix TZ48, it's got a Leica lens. I'm just going to quickly go through these various topics that I've asked you to research at home. So I'm going to start off first of all with the ISO. Now the ISO is located on the front of the screen. If I switch my camera on, okay, I notice there's an ISO button on there. If I click on this button, I can go through my ISO settings and increase and decrease the ISO as such. Higher, if the ISO is higher, that means usually it's in really bright light, so I need a lower ISO number. Quite straightforward to do. Just click on the ISO, go up and down, and I can change the ISO depending on the light content outside. Okay, so that's the ISO. The next thing I want to talk about is aperture. Now aperture is located on the front wheel, and basically you put it on A, which stands for aperture, and aperture ratio you can change with the F number. So we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. F numbers is dependent on the size of your aperture size. So low F numbers, f2.8, usually means a higher, bigger opening. As a bigger F number, so f22 for example, is a smaller opening. Benefit of that is less light comes in and more light comes in depending on the F number that I set. Okay, so that's aperture. The next thing I want to look at is megapixels. Now, in my menu, if I go to my menu, I've got something called picture size. If I click on ISO, I can hover up and down and increase and decrease my megapixel count. The higher the megapixels, the larger the picture I can print. There's more megapixels within that document. Okay, depth of field. Now, depth of field is a feature that most DSLR cameras have. Basically, if you've got an object standing here and you want the background to be blurred out, then that is the terminology in terms of called the depth of field. So you take a picture and you can blur out the background to get that effect. And the shallow depth of field is when you've got it closer, okay, and the background's out of focus. So say you're doing close-up images and you want the background to be blurred out, that's called a shallow depth of field, okay. Auto modes. Now if I go to my camera, again if I go to my camera on top view, there's something called AI, and AI basically means auto. Now the cameras, all cameras have them, auto modes, so when you put it in AI, it will put it in automatic mode where it will adjust aperture, shutter, ISO in accordance to the temperature and the setting that you're trying to take that picture. Okay? Right, optical and digital zoom. Well, this camera in particular has got a 42 times optics, and if I zoom in, it will zoom in 24 times, and that's an optical zoom. Now, a digital zoom is once it's zoomed out, the camera may or may not allow you to zoom into the frame, and what it does is stretches the frame and gives it a little bit more zoom essentially. Your phones have this feature because they have got optical zoom. Okay, so that's what an optical zoom is. Image stabilization is located in your menu. So if you go to your menu and look for image stabilization, you might need to put it on manual mode. So when you put it on manual mode and go to your menu will change. And if you flick through these settings, you'll find image stabilization. There it is, stabilizer with the little hand symbol. Okay, so you just press menu, press that will set. What that does is if you're on a train or you're on a plane and your camera's moving without you controlling it, basically what it will do is it will try to stabilize that image as much as it possibly can via the camera, and that's what image stabilization is. White balance. White balance is located again in your menu. So you click on your menu, this button here, you can scroll through this and look for white balance. And white balance is basically the various tonal values that you can get within your image. So you can have like a bluey effect or a creamier effect or a more brighter or darker effect. And there's lots of settings that are available in white balance. All cameras have that feature as well. Macro. Right, macro, on this particular model, there is actually a macro symbol, and it's a little flower symbol. What basically macro is if you want to do closer, so I can put my finger to this lens and take a picture of my finger, and it will focus the finger and it will be a really good close-up image. And that's what macro essentially is. Exposure compensation is a feature on all cameras again, and it's located on the front of the camera. It's a little plus minus symbol, and basically increase and decrease the exposure of that image physically via the camera rather than using your ISO or your aperture. You would go to your exposure to increase and decrease the exposure. Okay, sensors. Well, all cameras have sensors. What are sensors? Well, sensors are the chip that records the data on your camera. So you're filming, you're taking pictures. There needs to be a chip within your camera in order to process and capture that information. And this particular model has a CCD sensor. If you are using a professional camera, such as a DSLR, you would want a CMOS or an AMOS sensor, which is a larger chip which can capture more data and give you a better quality image, okay, or film. The last thing I'm going to talk about is focal points. Now, all cameras again have that feature. Basically, there's a little square on there. Sometimes you get little squares. When you take a picture, the camera will automatically try to focus on specific elements of your frame and try to focus onto this and lock onto those areas to give it focus. Okay. The more focus points you have, the more focused your picture will be. On this particular model, it's a little square that I've set it on, so that means it's a direct focal point in the middle of the frame, and that's where that is located. Sometimes you have little boxes and it will focus on different areas within your frame. Okay? Thank you for watching. Lumix TZ48 demonstration. Please watch this. Use this as your guide for your demonstrations for your camera work. Thank you.